I've been using the Insta360 Studio since pretty much when it came out, and in all those years I picked up quite a few tips on how to get the most out of this software, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. Some very simple tips that I noticed people missing on how to use the Insta360 Studio properly. Let's get going. The first tip for using the Insta360 Studio is going to allow you to create more accurate reframes, allow you to lock onto subjects with more accuracy, and is something that I've not seen many people use. What you need to do is go up to the menu system up here, click on that, go down to where it says Window, and then go down to Guides, and then enable grid lines and center points. Now, as you can see, this adds some grid lines and also that yellow X in the center. Now that stays in the center no matter where you move. And this is gonna allow you to lock on to subjects more accurately, like as you can see here, for like a hyperlapse video. It's going to allow me to get the exact position every single time. If you're locking onto a person, you're going to be able to lock onto that person with much more accuracy than if you were just guessing. So you can get shots like this, which are going to look a lot better than if you did not have these grid lines, if you did not have this X. This is going to allow you to create these kinds of shots much more efficiently. Next up is a feature that's been around for a little while, but I still see people not using it, and it can impact the way you edit your videos, especially if you have a slower PC or laptop. When you export, you can click on Add to Queue. This will add your video, your edited video, to a batch exporter. You can carry on editing the rest of your videos and then export all of those videos at once. It's better to do it this way. You do not want to be exporting while you are editing. It will make the whole process a lot slower and a lot more laggy. If you're a fan of using the deep track option, for example, in videos like this would be perfect if you wanted to track this subject, person. The deep track functioning is great at doing that. However, I've seen people not really take advantage of the fact that you can still zoom in and out. It doesn't have to be so robotic. So like this deep track, I'm tracking this skier here, and it's going to do an amazing job. It always keeps track of that person very, very accurately. However, when I play it back, it's just in one zoom position the whole time. In the Studio software, you can't adjust the zoom while you're deep tracking. However, if you click on the green bar, you can adjust the zoom after you've done that deep tracking. So if you wanted to zoom in, zoom out, you could create different zoom levels. Also adjust the field of view angle. So if you wanted to get rid of that fisheye effect and make it a bit more flat, you can do that as well. Next up, and probably one of the things I see people get wrong the most, is how to use the direction lock function. Now I'm going to show you here what the difference is really. So direction lock is a type of stabilization, and it basically locks the position of the camera to the direction that the camera was facing. So that can sound a bit complicated, but as you can see now, direction lock is on, and I have the camera here attached to the back of a motorbike, and it's facing in one direction the whole time. However, when the camera moves, or when the cyclist moves, particularly when they turn a corner, now I'm going to play this here, and the camera is actually subtly turning. This motorcyclist is subtly turning, but you don't really notice that because the camera is locked on. Direction lock is on. Now, if we turn direction lock off, let's see what happens when we carry on turning this corner. So you can see, even there with the yellow square, it's the yellow cross, it's slightly deviating. It's going in a different direction because direction lock is not on. We can have a look at a different video which demonstrates this very, very clearly. With direction lock on, we're now facing the camera forward towards the motorcyclist, and as they're going to make a big turn here, right around the corner, but the camera turns with it. The view turns with the cyclist. So this is a perfect way to make this video. But if we turn direction lock off, go back up here, turn direction lock off, and now when we turn this corner, you're going to see that the camera just moves completely just doesn't follow the person and doesn't really make for a good shot. So basically, direction lock works best if you want the camera to follow the user. So for example, motorcycling, cycling, POV shots. However, if you want to create shots like this, where there's a lot of movement, a lot of freedom, you don't want it to follow one direction, you want to use those keyframes, then you turn direction lock off. Next up, I'm going to show you the best way to make easy transitions between your 360 videos. So go up to Project, which is where we can combine clips and add transitions, as well as text, etc. It's on the top of the Studio view there. So Well, the first thing you should do is create a new project. And when you do so, another tip, this can count as another tip actually, always make sure you're adding a proxy. I do 420p because I want it to be as quick as possible, and that creates the fastest proxies possible, makes editing way easier. So once you've done that, and the project is loaded, grab a couple of clips that you want to make some transitions between. I'm going to choose these because they're kind of a fairly similar vibe, walking through some kind of symmetrical, I don't know what to call them, landmarks? Yeah, let's just call them that. So I'm just going to line these up so that the transition is smooth and it makes sense. And once I've done that, I'm going to go up to the top left-hand side here of the screen. You can see where there are transitions. Now, there are actually lots of transitions available, but the ones we're interested in and the ones that work best are the 360 transitions. You can see them labeled there. And if you click on 360, you can see what the options are. There are 10 of them available, but they all work really well because they make use of the whole 360 view. The other transitions don't. They're more like normal transitions you see on any other editing program, but these are unique. We can see here how it uses the transition. I've grabbed it there and dragged it onto the timeline, and this is what these kinds of transitions look like. Way more dynamic than normal transitions. So if you're using 360 videos, transitioning between them, use these transitions. They work really well, and you just have to drag and drop them, where the two clips meet on the timeline. Try them out and you'll see for yourself. So those are my quick fire tips on the Insta360 Studio, but if you want a really in-depth look at this program, as well as the Insta360 app, as well as how to create all these kinds of amazing shots, how to get the most out of your Insta360 camera quality-wise, then please check out my ultimate Insta360 video course. This has helped hundreds and hundreds of people get the best shots possible with their camera because it can be a little difficult to pick up and use. From shooting to editing, I literally show you everything you need to know. So check that out. There's a discount in the description. So check that out. And until next time, guys, I will see you around. Bye.